CURES, sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.
Helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness for our mind, body, and spirit. And I'm here with Dana White, who is going to kind of unpack and bust some myths for us about how much protein we really need to be not only healthy, but lean. If you're watching your social media feeds, it's all about the protein and all these things. But Dana White's actually a cookbook author. She's also a registered dietitian and nutritionist. She coaches college athletes. She's got 3 kids at home. You're a busy mom, so you know what it's like to, try and battle the bulge as we get a little older, but also know, like, how do we do this in a balanced way? And so all I see on Instagram is protein, protein, protein. So I'm like, I need to have you on here so all of us can have the real information, kind of cut through the fluff, so to speak.
Yeah, let's cut through the fluff. And I so appreciate, this is such a great topic. Like you said, I think it's on everyone's radar. I'm asked about protein in one way, shape, or form all the time. Whether it's from athletes, whether it's from my friends, the moms of my kids and things, of my kids' friends and things like that. It is very confusing. So hopefully I can give us some science to back up these recommendations.
Okay, so let's just start with, is protein super important for us?
Absolutely. And really all the macronutrients are important. I think that's sort of the biggest problem that we see out there in sort of the universe of things surrounding nutrition, certainly on social media. We're always demonizing one macronutrient. Maybe it's carbs, maybe it's protein. Rarely. It's usually fat and carbs.
Yeah.
But really we need them all, right?
Ideally, one meal should actually have a little bit of everything, right?
Yes, really, it really should. Now, I guess I'm sure we could come up with some exceptions, and obviously the quality of those nutrients, like of the food choices, do matter.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, certainly for a meal, you really want representation from healthy carbohydrates, healthy protein, healthy fat, in order not only to give your body what it needs, but also how you feel, right? After you eat it is really important. So I'm sure we've all had that situation where we've eaten something and then we're hungry 5 minutes later.
Yes.
Right? And so that we obviously want to avoid, because that can tend to lead to overeating. If your meals can be balanced, same thing with snacks, you really shouldn't feel that way.
Okay, so when we're feeling like we need to eat all the time, or we're hungry really quickly later, we're likely didn't balance things the right way, and protein could help?
Absolutely. So protein is, and really when we think about the different macronutrients, right, they digest differently. We digest them in different amounts of time. Protein is a slower digesting nutrient, right? So when a meal or snack has protein in it, it's going to take longer to digest, and then we're going to feel fuller longer, okay, which is a good thing. Now, for athletes, right, sports nutrition isn't necessarily the focus of this for everyone, but you don't want to eat something too high in protein right before you exercise, because it's too slow digesting and it's going to be in your stomach for too long, and that's kind of the opposite of what you want.
So same thing if we're a mom and we're going, it's good to know for our kids, we want to know what to get them to fuel them for their games and stuff. So as much as I'm thinking protein, like before they go to a soccer game, you probably don't want to be like, here's just a chicken breast.
Correct, right? And I think that is the mindset. Oh, athletes need more protein.
Protein.
But
eat a chicken breast, eat a protein bar.
Same thing for us. So I work out early in the morning, right? So I'm not going to eat a really high. I do recommend having something before exercise, always. But a high protein option is not a great choice if you don't have a lot of time before you exercise, right? So if you don't have time to digest it, that's when it leads to maybe some stomach discomfort. Maybe you're not going to feel good. Maybe it's going to cause some burping or something very unpleasant for any workout, right?
What about a protein shake or bar?
So so shakes and bars there's no one size fits all, right? They're all different. So protein bars, either way, I wouldn't recommend one right before exercise.
Right. So it's more after.
Correct. Now, if you have several hours before you're going to exercise, and maybe you're going to have an afternoon snack, and then you're going to exercise several hours later, then you can probably load up on the protein a little bit more, right? But if it's right before, it's not a good idea. It's rather going to sit in your stomach like a rock, and that's not going to feel good. Or if you're, the few people that don't feel that way, I mean, I always ask groups of athletes, like, who's going to get a stomachache if they feel like they ate too close to a workout. And it's usually the majority of the people, but there are those unicorns that can literally eat anything and exercise and feel fine.
Yeah.
Either way, you can't digest it in time to turn it into good fuel for that workout, right? So you always want to think about that. So you want to give yourself a couple of hours to digest a lot of protein before you exercise. Otherwise, you risk not having fuel for that workout or not feeling so good.
Okay,
Save
so
the protein
ideally,
for after.
this is always a big question. Like, let's just start with that. What should we eat for breakfast to be lean and fit?
Okay, so you want there to be some protein, right? So again, that's always the thing, is like, when do you exercise? So for me, I exercise in the morning pretty early. Like today it was at 7, sometimes it's at 9, right? Depending on the day. So I'll have something with a little bit of protein in it beforehand, maybe a small amount of yogurt or a bar that doesn't have a ton of protein in it. I try to keep it to about 10 grams of protein. Piece of whole grain bread with a little bit of peanut butter on it, right? So there's protein there, but not a ton. I'm gonna have a much higher protein recovery meal after my workout is over.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you work out later in the day, I would recommend having that sort of higher protein, fuller, more rounded breakfast earlier, right?
Yeah.
So that could be Greek yogurt with some granola and fruit. We talked about how good cottage cheese is, right? Cottage cheese is great for protein. I'm a big egg fan, so I like to have some eggs, maybe some oatmeal along with it, sprinkle some chia seeds on there. Hitting about that 30 gram of protein mark is usually a good recommendation.
Yeah, so if we're tracking this right now, one of the things you're hearing a lot is try to get a gram of protein, especially if you're a midlife woman trying to lean out, a gram of protein per ideal body weight, which seems really hard.
Right.
Is that not true that we need that, or what would you say?
I would say, so it is different for everyone, and it does depend on what your goals are. But again, if we sort of, as generalized as we can be, a gram per pound is too much. A gram per pound is way too much. Dietitians use kilograms, so we work at it a little bit differently.
Okay.
So, I would say the best thing to do, which a lot of women do not do, is have some protein at every meal and snack.
Okay.
And this is something we don't do. We skip protein. We try to eat as little as we possibly can all day. And again, a lot of times that's because we're working and juggling kids. I mean, there's good reason for it, but I really encourage women to try to prioritize spreading out their protein throughout the day. Okay. They're gonna feel more satisfied, and it really helps with maintaining lean body mass, which is much, much harder as we age.
Yeah, because as we age, we really are, the whole reason they want us to, this big protein push right now.
Yep.
Is the idea that we need to feed our muscle because we're losing muscle.
Right, and our ability to maintain muscle is harder as we age.
Okay.
So that's really kind of how, and again, there's hormonal shifts that are involved in that. There's lifestyle changes that sort of then end up sort of, playing into that as well. And then there's people's genetics, which we can't control, right? Unfortunately. So I would say that, in terms of maintaining that lean body mass, and certainly then, yes, building it if that's what makes most sense for you, is eating protein consistently throughout the day at every meal and snack.
So breakfast could be a Greek yogurt. I learned this from you earlier, and you can go back and watch this on WFSB.com, watch the great day. We cooked a whole bunch of things. Mm-hmm. So in the morning, you showed us that, a cup of Greek yogurt has 20 grams. So just a cup.
Yep.
So you could do a cup and a half, put some blueberries on it, you got your protein.
Chia seeds, and again, even thinking about things that, like, there's toppings that you can add. There's some great protein granolas out there. Again, you're not gonna have like a bucket of it, right?
Yeah.
But sprinkle some granola on there, some nuts, some chia seeds. Like, you can also get protein from some other sources as well.
Yeah.
And then, of course, some fresh fruit, never a bad idea. A lot of people are like, oh, flavored yogurt or unflavored yogurt. I mean, you'll certainly get less sugar in unflavored, but then you definitely wanna add some sweetness, maybe a drizzle of honey.
Yes.
Some people don't like plain yogurt, and I don't blame them.
I don't blame it either, but I don't mind it at all. It's really good with plain honey.
And with some fresh fruit, I mean, it's fat.
I like
especially this
to
time of year.
microwave the frozen blueberries because then they make a juice.
Like a sauce. I
Yes.
like that idea. I like that idea a lot.
All right, so we know that we don't need to live any added sugar. We don't need that. I mean, I know people will do that to get things down, but we don't need that. But we do need protein, fat, and carbs.
For sure.
So breakfast, a good goal would be, the thing is, there's such a craze right now about intermittent fasting. I have tried it, and it drives me insane. I can't function.
Yeah.
And so people who are smart and about food like you and other people have said, no, don't, especially for women, it can be tricky. And if it's hurting you, maybe some people it's okay, but like, what's the deal? Should we be trying to fast?
I think it's like torturous, honestly. I could never do it, right? And again, I do know some people that have had great success in following some sort of intermittent fasting pattern. And again, there are a few different protocols. At the end of the day, here's what I'm concerned about, right? It's it does create some caloric restriction is what people need. That's what people need to lose weight.
Yeah.
I just think that there's better ways to do it.
Okay.
And for example, like you said, it drove me crazy, right? And I think
just felt weak and
would
moody.
you start your day
and they're like, get over it, just do it a couple months and
Yeah.
you'll get past. I didn't get past it. And for me, I think I've always been a little blood sugar sensitive. Like since I was little, the doctor would be like, pack some snacks, you know, like when you run low.
For sure. And again, you start your day early, right? So that's not great. Again, you were hangry, Karen.
I get hangry, and I'm a hangry person when that happens.
And so that is the idea. So again, especially if people that exercise in the morning, that means you're not going to be fueled going into that workout. You might not even be recovering after that workout because it's not in your window.
Yeah.
And I find that to be dangerous. And
they actually
not productive, right?
Some trainers will encourage you to work out on a fasted state to really pull out all your carbs.
Right, and they're like, oh, that's how you burn fat. That's not really how physiology works, right? And again, you did create a calorie deficit, and then what I also have seen, and we have data to support this as well, that weight loss, often again, that fasted, consistent working out with no fuel, you lose muscle instead of fat. And who wants to do that, right? So the number on the scale goes down.
Okay.
And I think there's some, that obviously people like to see that if weight loss is their goal.
Yeah.
But if you're losing muscle, which we already don't have a ton of muscle to spare, especially as we age, it's harder to hold on to that muscle. If you starve yourself, you're gonna lose muscle.
Yeah. So women also, we want the protein and we want to incorporate the strength training, which is something else women haven't been doing. They've been eating very little and maybe just doing like an hour of cardio every day.
Exactly, yeah.
So not only, to me that's not fun. So not only are you killing yourself, but it's not really effective for leaning out.
No, exactly.
What is effective? What do we do?
You gotta lift heavy stuff. You gotta lift and you gotta lift heavy. And I can't tell you how often, women will say, oh, I don't wanna get bulky, right?
Yeah.
That is not going to happen.
We don't have the genes for it.
I think the expectation that you are going to lift to this point where you are just going to become this massive bodybuilder sort of physique is really unrealistic, right?
Okay. Even if we start pumping protein and lifting lots of weight,
yes,
we're really just going to hopefully turn some of the fat into muscle.
Yeah, you're going to lose the fat and you're going to maintain and build some muscle. And that's really what we want.
Yeah.
But you have to fuel that, right?
Yeah.
Again, I think the mindset is eat as little as possible, run yourself ragged, literally, and that's, again, you're going to end up losing more muscle. You're not going to feel good. You're going to be tired, depleted. You're probably going to get hurt, again, especially if you're trying to jump into like a cardio routine. Cardio is great, right? You want that for...
Yeah, we want both.
It's an
and now we're
aspect of
demonizing cardio.
Right, but I think a lot of women are really... And also, I think they're intimidated by strength training, especially if they've never done it, they don't know how to do it. So obviously you want to seek out whether, a good facility or a good personal trainer, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
You don't just have to lift weights either. There's several other ways to
body weight workouts.
Take TRX classes,
Pilates.
Even certain types of Pilates and yoga. I mean, obviously there's all different types of intensities for things like that. That is also weight-bearing strength training exercise that will also help you reach your goals.
Well, I mean, I do like a good power yoga class, and it's not easy.
For sure.
I mean,
and that's the thing. Then you're getting that workout, and you're giving the muscles that tension and that stress, the good stress that they actually need.
Okay, so we want to start our morning with ideally 30 grams of protein.
That's a good sort of average number, yes.
Okay, and I just want to promote your book here because I know it says Healthy, Quick, and Easy College Cookbook. I have this cookbook and I make things out of it like the blender muffins and just the idea that you don't even need recipes, maybe to have Greek yogurt with fruit on top of it. That's like my go-to quick, I have no time to eat.
Yep.
Or, microwaving some pre-made, turkey meatballs to put on
egg
some
sandwich or some microwave
zoodles,
egg sandwich in there.
I mean, so there's really easy ways to get protein. You're writing for athletes, you train people at Quinnipiac, at some of the elite prep schools. I mean, so we probably, I'm going to say as women, we probably can't eat as much as those young college men.
Right,
but,
unfortunately, no.
But these are super easy. It doesn't have to be hard. I think people think, oh my gosh, it's expensive, I don't have time, I'd have to be cooking chicken all day.
Or they have to be cooking something different than what you're making for everyone else in your household, again, which I think we trip over a lot too.
Yeah, so what do we do? Like, what do you want to bust some myths? I mean, you cook for 3 kids every day.
Yep. And like, it's funny because yes, college cookbook, but this is is really an arsenal of recipes that I go to all the time. Because
Just change the cover. You see mom work out.
I know my kids like them, and things. I mean, everything in here is 6 ingredients or less, so we really tried to make it very, very simple.
Which is easy and not too expensive.
Right, exactly. So, and again, who doesn't like to save money when it comes to this? So, I think it's really yes, I have adolescent athletes in my house. They need more food, maybe calories than I do, and I think we as women do trip over that. But like, I'm only making one thing for dinner. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go crazy being the short order cook making things. My portions might be different. I'm still gonna make sure that there's protein, healthy carbs. Healthy fat kind of comes along for the ride in a lot of recipes, whether you're sautéing in olive oil or maybe adding having yogurt where there is a little bit of fat and things like that. I love cheese, so again, I don't go crazy with the cheese, but certainly we'll add that to things.
Yeah. Nothing's off your menu for being lean and fit.
1000%. No. Again,
unless you have a dietary issue.
Correct. Right. Of course. And thankfully, no one in my house does. And then that's again, like everyone has their favorites, but yeah, I don't restrict anything like that. And I try, especially raising girls, I try to hit that home that it's not about deprivation and giving things up forever and things like that. But yeah, my portions are going to look different than theirs for sure. But we're all eating the same thing.
So, as a mom who also is trying to, set a good example, but also would like to find, I used to be so small all the time, and now I'm like, okay, I have to watch it, or I notice if I eat bread and things, it just seems to just go right where, like, I don't burn it or something. So as we get older, if we start noticing we are more carb sensitive and we just can't have as many desserts or as many carbs without gaining weight, where do we start to be like, all right, I don't want to go on some crazy fad diet, but I want to lean out?
Right. So yes, please don't go on the crazy fad diets, because it's just creating some caloric restriction, and we can do that without having to go on the crazy fad diet where we're giving up so many different things. Because when we give up other things too, we're missing out on other nutrients that they're not sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Whether for just our lifestyle or we're missing out on certain nutrients for long term, it's going to put us at a disadvantage, a health risk in another way, right? Yeah. So when we talk about carbs, right? Because that's always what people ask me about.
If we don't burn them all, they get stored as fat.
And here's
Is
the
that
thing.
true?
Carbs are very easy to overeat. They are protein keeps us full really long. Carbs we digest quickly, okay? And in some cases, that's a good thing, right? But again, it's also like, I'll use pasta as an example, right? You put, a cup of plain pasta in front of you, you're gonna eat that, it's gonna digest really quick, you're gonna be hungry again in 5 minutes, right?
Unless you put like some chicken and some olive oil, other things with it.
Correct, add protein, add vegetables. So fiber is really the secret weapon when it comes to carbohydrates. You wanna gravitate towards higher fiber carbohydrates that make you feel fuller longer as well. So the whole grain bread, again, this isn't rocket science, we've heard this before, but like the whole grain bread versus the more, refined grain bread.
Yeah.
That fiber in there is going to, for a similar amount of calories, because there's usually not a huge difference, is going to make you feel fuller longer. And then having that combination, like I wouldn't just have even a whole grain bread, a slice of bread by itself. Okay,
you would put peanut butter on it.
I'm going to put peanut butter. I'm going to put an egg on it, right?
Put clothes on your carbs, as there's another woman on Instagram.
I love that. But that's true.
I didn't coin that, but the glucose goddess, who talks all about, like, in our modern diets, we're often just having these kind of naked carbs, and our blood sugar goes soaring up, which then our insulin goes up, which when we go fat storage mode.
Right, and so and then again, the calories come in a lot faster, right? Because if we're digesting it quickly and then we're still hungry, it's the calorie piece, right? And really, again, if weight loss is the goal, we want to find a way to create more of a calorie deficit, right? So we do that with exercise, but then the dietary piece is how do we consume less calories, right?
Right.
And it's not the least amount of calories, but maybe less than what we were eating that was leading to that weight creeping up.
So in other shows, Dr. Jennifer Stagg has said, she wrote a book called The Bitter Prescription, that as we get older, as women, the reason why she wrote The Bitter Prescription, we need more bitters, more greens like that.
Yep.
But that we also just can't eat what we used to. We actually require less. Do you find that as a woman who's, I know you exercise a lot, but are you finding that like you just can't eat the same as maybe the rest of your family, and you have to watch it?
Of course, and the thing, as we age, our metabolic rate does decline. There's no escaping that. That's for men, that's for women. I think women have some hormonal shifts. Well, we don't think we do have hormonal shifts that feed into that even more.
Yeah.
But the exercise piece is very helpful. And again, I think if you love chocolate cake, to say you're never going to eat chocolate cake again is just not realistic, right? But yes, you definitely want to make some more, pick and choose. I also think women always compare themselves to their 25-year-old self, and I don't think that's fair. I think that's a mean thing to do.
Well, we can eat whatever we wanted.
That's a mean thing to do to yourself. Yes, so like a lot of things are different since we were in our early 20s, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, metabolism is also one of those things. There's definitely things that you can do to offset that. Exercise is one. Eating frequently throughout the day is another, right? So that's again where that fasting piece is really not always a great idea for women.
Well, and more research is coming out about that sometimes our cortisol goes up and then we go, and that's a very big internet trend. How are we lowering our cortisol? We don't want to get too picky because just lowering your cortisol, if you're eating ding-dongs, you're still going to gain weight.
Right.
But do you see that as a factor, that we're too stressed, our cortisol is going up, and we're just packing on pounds because of other things going on in our body?
So I think, and this is what we see a lot in nutrition and certainly with social media. Like there's a bit of truth to some of these things and then it explodes and everyone's blaming all these things and cortisol face and all these things I'm seeing all over the internet. I literally just wrote an article about this.
You did?
Yes, about cortisol and what that means. So yes, like we stress, physiological stress and also physical stress can have an effect on our cortisol levels. Cortisol levels are always highest in the morning, okay? If you eat something in the morning, it will help start bringing those cortisol levels down.
That's why they say sometimes with women, it might be hard for us to skip. I don't know why men, it seems to be easier for them to fast versus women.
Yeah.
We're going to take just a quick break to listen to a word about health from our sponsors. And then when I come back, we're going to get through lunch and dinner and really busting the myths about how much protein we really need. Take a listen.
Struggling with gambling? Wheeler Health's Better Choice program offers personalized support and treatment to help you regain control. Visit WheelerHealth.org to learn more and take the first step towards recovery today.
All right, back here as we continue our conversation about, as we myth bust, how much protein do we really need to be lean and fit. I'm here with registered dietitian and nutritionist Dana White. She's a cookbook author. She's a mom of 3. She lives a regular life. You just happen to know a little bit more about nutrition. So, I mean, what I'm hearing from you, which makes me happy, is that because certainly I've tried a lot of different things too over the years with the shows and stuff, but that we really don't have to be, this is simpler than we're making it. And that some of this, oh my gosh, if you have to shove like 2 chicken breasts down your mouth to get some, 130 grams of protein, we don't necessarily need that. We actually just need to make sure we're having protein sprinkled in every meal.
Right, and here's the thing, it's really simple physiology. And again, I think the fads and the hooks that come along, they're very compelling, and I see why people do that. But what I hate to see is so many women around me torture themselves,
right?
Thinking that it's going to get them to this long-term sustainable goal.
It's not sustainable either.
No,
if you
can't never, especially right again, if you're cutting out a million things, like yes, obviously if you have a medical reason that a certain dietary change needs to be made, that's one thing, right? I always use like celiac as an example,
right? Or a lot of us are gluten sensitive. I have noticed I get the big puffy face after I eat more. I probably shouldn't have too much gluten now.
Right, and the good thing about a sensitivity versus something like celiac disease, which is like then gluten is off limits, is that then you have a threshold, right? And then you can figure out what that threshold is, and then kind of know what works for you. Maybe a little trial and error built in, but it's not like you have to get rid of it forever like you do if you have celiac disease.
So a lot of us don't want to be measuring things either. I mean, a good idea from some other people, I don't know what you think about this, has been that you get maybe at MyFitnessPal just to track a little and become aware. But if you don't even want to do that, you're saying, hey, some simple things like a cup of Greek yogurt has a good amount of protein, a half a cup of cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is having its moment.
It really is.
You really are jumping on the bandwagon that we see all over, that you're putting cottage cheese in your eggs and things. And not because you maybe didn't before, but cottage cheese is a protein powerhouse?
Yes, it absolutely is. And so when we talk about food sources of protein, we talk about these amino acids, right? Those are the building blocks of protein. And different protein-rich foods offer different amino acids, okay? So that's another piece of it. It's not just like the grams, we call it protein quality in the nutrition business, right? We want to make sure that we're diversifying and getting all the amino acids that we need, okay? Cottage cheese just happens to be one that has a ton of the type of amino acids that are great for building and sparing lean body mass. So they are kind of a muscle building powerhouse.
So
if
you have
want
your
to do it
athletes
that way.
do that.
I do, if they like it. But that's the thing, if they like it.
If they like it, yeah.
All right, I'll tell you a secret. I don't love cottage cheese by itself. My athletes all know this. I disclose this to them all the time. And I keep trying it, and I keep trying. I find
But when it's blended in a pancake.
If I mix it in stuff, it's totally fine. Yeah, and again, I think it's a great way to boost the protein in something.
Yeah.
I really, that is something that I really try to do. And again, young and old, active, athletes or non-athletes, is there protein at every meal and snack? Obviously, be a little bit more conservative right before you exercise, like we said, just so that you don't end up with a stomach ache.
Yeah.
But if you can get some, like I said, I think we don't do that. We just eat, pretzels as a snack.
Right.
Right. And it's fine, but then you're hungry 5 minutes later, you're eating the whole bag of pretzels, right? Once you add something with protein.
And a healthy fat. We were talking about this, like peanut butter. My daughter has been layering peanut butter on stuff because she's like, I got to get some protein. She didn't feel like making chicken. And I'm like, protein. She's young, so she can probably do whatever she wants. But like peanut butter is really nutritionally more in the fat column, right?
It's different. It is one of those, and it's funny because we do bucket things in different macronutrient categories because that's where we see the majority. So even something like bread might have, if it's made with nuts and seeds, maybe it does have a little bit of fat in it, right? It's mostly a carb, but depending on how it's made, we do see some crossover, right? Legumes, which peanuts are technically a legume, are another one of those crossover categories where they actually have multiple macronutrient groups represented. Okay? So peanuts definitely, so peanut butter has some protein. It's not a lean protein source the way maybe chicken would be.
Okay.
But you're going to get some protein from it. It also is going to have healthy fat, again, so healthy.
Right. So putting on your bread is good, but maybe trying to put 4 tablespoons in a
like
serving.
the 3 inches of standing peanut butter, again, and again, that's more slow digesting as well. So again, before a workout, I might do a little bit of peanut butter on the rice cake or the piece on the slice of toast or something, but you do want to be more mindful of the portions, right?
Yes.
So for some, young athletes that maybe are trying to increase their caloric intake, peanut butter is a great way to do that. You're getting a ton of healthy fat and some additional healthy calories, some protein as well. But on the flip side, if maybe you're trying to create that caloric restriction, it's being more conservative about the portions of foods like that.
Okay, same thing. They might have like a bunch of avocados, eat a bowl of guacamole, all a very healthy fat. But if you're a mom who's like, okay, I want to try and lean out and maybe lose 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds, maybe having tons of fat is calories are going to still matter. We just want quality.
1,000%.
So we only have, maybe 3 minutes left, but so we got this. We want to start in the morning. You want to have, so lunch would look like a handful of protein on a salad, or maybe you could still have a sandwich. It's not a demonized, but maybe you do open face if you're trying to low.
Again, like could you save some so again, just the same way you say, oh, maybe I scale back on the avocado, maybe you do like the thin sliced bread, right?
Okay.
There's lots of great options for that out there now that are just there. There's still 2 pieces of bread, but it's thinner.
Okay, so I think we get the idea. And same thing for dinner. You want to have protein in your dinner.
Here's one thing too that most people, lunch and dinner should be the same size, portion-wise.
Okay.
Women don't do that. They have tiny little lunch and then they're starving at dinner. So you want to try to balance those portions out a bit.
Okay. In our just over a minute, I just want to, what is your view on getting protein through bars and powders?
So it can be an option. It is not superior to food. I think that's the mindset a lot of times. Oh, I need a protein powder. I need a protein bar. I'd much rather it come from a whole food source.
Okay.
And then use it to supplement your diet.
If you had a brand that you let yourself eat, your kids, because not all protein powders are created equally. Some have bad stuff in them.
Sure, for sure. And again, check the labels, and if there's dietary restrictions. I really like Now Foods. They make, again, plant-based, whey-based, it kind of depends. I actually did write an article for Food Network about this where I looked at a bunch of different ones.
Okay.
For me, for athletes, third-party tested is important. So Optimum or Momentous or some of these other brands that have third-party testing for competitive athletes is important as well.
And if you want to read Dana's work, she's got DanaWhiteNutritionist.com or DanaWhite.com.
Yes, Dana White Nutrition on pretty much everything.
Dana White Nutrition on everything.
Yeah.
All right. We're out of time right now. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you, everyone, for being here. You can share this with someone you love. Watch it with your teens. Have a great day and be well.
CURES, sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at WheelerHealth.org.